So in the last video, talked about traditional religion. In this video, I want to talk about another religious system that's out there, maybe the other predominant religious system in this day and age, and that's scientism. And by the way, they don't want it to be called a religion, but it is one. And it predominates in academic settings and in a lot of intellectual settings today. And basically, the belief system that's associated with it is that Darwin's theories in science have supposedly proven that there is no God, or there is no meaning to life, and we all just randomly evolved from a single cell ancestor. And for that reason, our lives have no purpose or meaning, and nothing that is traditionally referred to as paranormal or supernatural or any of these things really has any existence. They're just primitive explanations for things that we supposedly know all about today and can dismiss with other explanations. So this belief system actually is not a real scientific belief system because it doesn't meet with the exacting standards of the scientific method. In other words, you can't prove that belief system using science and the scientific method. It contains, in fact, a lot of speculation. And for that reason, it is, well, like I said, a religion. It's a religion. Now, different people have different reasons for believing in it. And again, as I've said in the past, some people have good intentions in believing in this sort of thing. And I think maybe a lot of people who do believe in it believe that traditional religion and everything associated with it is something bad or a negative force in society. So they look to science because they respect science so much, and they feel like science is going to solve our problems in the world. And that's, I'm sure they believe that. I don't necessarily believe that they're right, but I understand why they might think it. However, we're asking about whether or not this belief system is true or false. And if you're going to ask that question, I think what you end up concluding, if you really ask the question correctly and you look at the evidence and you examine the assertions of this belief system with the same kind of skepticism that these people examine religion with, the same kind of skepticism, you will see that it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up to the scrutiny, and it doesn't jibe with the evidence. And when I talk about evidence, well, here's a form of evidence. There are different forms of evidence, but I'll give you one form of the evidence. The human eye can only see a certain band between infrared and ultraviolet, right? Same thing with hearing, same thing with all the other senses. Well, all scientific observations are based on only the five senses, and whatever scientific instruments are invented to correspond with these senses. Now, it only stands to reason, and it's a scientific conclusion, that there's a tremendous amount of energy that cannot be measured or perceived with our ordinary senses and our brains. It's there. I mean, it has to be that there are many things that we don't know about. And if you want some proof of that, just look at the history of the microscope, for example. When someone invented the microscope, suddenly it was discovered that there were these microbes and germs that no one had ever scientifically thought could exist before. Suddenly, there they are, and we know they're there, but we would never have known if we hadn't invented the microscope to enhance our perception. Same thing with the telescope. We saw that there are these distant planets and galaxies, but we would never have known that. There was no way to know it if we were only to use our basic senses in the scientific instruments that existed before the telescope and the microscope. So it only stands to reason that one day there'll be other instruments that are invented, and then we'll be able to perceive things that up till now our ordinary senses alone have not and cannot measure. And so it makes complete sense to say that there are just things that are beyond the realm and the grasp of science to prove. However, there actually is scientific research of a certain kind that essentially supports very strongly the existence of many paranormal phenomena, but it's usually hushed up. Most people who subscribe to this belief system would rather you don't hear about it. And the reason they don't want you to hear about it is because they want to say that this belief system explains everything, and they want to say that scientists are the great authorities of knowledge today in the world. And if we have any questions about life and reality, we should look to them to provide the answer. And if they admit that the paranormal exists, if they admit that the supernatural exists, then they have to admit that they don't know nearly as much as they thought they did about life or its purpose. And then they're not as important as they had hoped they would be. So, what I recommend that you do is examine the question for yourself and just do it objectively. Don't do it with any prejudice. Don't say, well, these scientists are bad people or these religious people are bad people, so I'm not going to believe what they say. Believe me, like I said, there are good people in every camp, and there are people who, although I don't necessarily agree with their belief systems, believe what they believe, hopefully for some basically good reasons, but it's just that their belief systems don't stand up. So, look for the evidence. Look for it in two ways. See if you can examine the evidence that's been amassed in terms of paranormal research, of which there is a great deal. Study it from all different sources and look at it and see what you can observe has basically been more or less established. And then do something else. Look within yourself and do some inner research. In other words, learn some things about mind expansion and perception alteration. And then see if by altering your perception, you can experience a higher reality. And when you do, see what you feel that experience communicates to you in terms of a real, truthful experience. And when you do both of these things together, what I will say is you can and you will uncover a reality that cannot be dismissed. And believe me, I can talk about many things that I've experienced that cannot be dismissed. And I'm far from alone, and I'm far from unique, and there are many, 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 many people who've experienced these things in many ways, in ways that cannot be dismissed, in ways that cannot be explained away. And some people may think that, but I'd be happy to debate them about it. And it's not about me winning or anything like that, because as was once said, you can do nothing either against or for the truth. But the thing is this: we are here for a reason. There is a higher power than we are, and we are here to basically align ourselves to that higher power and achieve a certain purpose in our lives to become better. And that is not just an arbitrary thought process, nor is it something that will ever just happen automatically if we become atheists or anything like that. And I'll be talking about things like that and many things related. But explore these ideas and give what I've said some thought here. And I think what you'll end up doing is understanding that although you may have heard this perspective, which I've been talking about, from some people who you respect and who are highly educated, that there's a definite different thought process that can be advocated for pretty strongly. So, I'll be back again soon to talk about things like this and things that are related to it. So if you like the video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you haven't, maybe. And I'll be back again soon to talk about things that are related to this. So, thank you for watching.